Hello, I'm Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to make pastry cream. Pastry cream is a custard like the creme brulee, except this is a stirred custard. So I already started the 1.5 cups of milk, the sugar and the pinch of salt in the pot. It has to come to a boil. And then we have to set up the eggs. Now, unlike creme brulee, this is going to use the whole egg. Alright, but before we use the egg, I want to set up the sugar. So you'll notice in these recipes it says divided. 2 ounces of sugar goes in there. 2 ounces go in here. And then what we're going to do is put the cornstarch in. And if you remember from when we made the lemon curd, we had to make a slurry. And slurries don't have to be a liquid slurry like for Julienne sauce. They can be a dry slurry. So this is the sugar and the cornstarch together. And that's going to create a dry slurry, so to speak. So that the cornstarch is mixed in with the sugar. It just keeps it from clumping. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch hands here, and I'm going to pour the milk in, and I'm just going to let the milk mix around with everything. Okay, so that's going to make it smooth. And again, if the cornstarch wasn't mixed with the sugar, it would definitely clump. But at this point, it's not going to clump. Then we're going to put in the egg. Okay, so now this has the milk, the egg, the sugar. Alright, and only a 1/2 cup of milk. The other 1.5 cups went in there. And now, this is the base of your custard, okay, which is our pastry cream. And pastry cream is really it's a rich vanilla pudding. It's the base of a lot of tarts and cakes. You can use it as fillings. It's used so much. If you're making stuff at home and it calls for a pre-made pastry cream and you don't have it, you can use it like a vanilla pudding or something like this. But the pastry cream just has a richness to it. Okay? Once you get it mixed like this, now what we're going to do is we're going to slide this over. And this already came to a boil. So we're going to temper it. So we're going to take our ladle. And again, the eggs, we don't want the eggs to cook. So we're going to take the hot milk mixture and we're going to slowly blend it in. Okay? Keep going. And again, they tell you to always do like 2/3. I like to do it, until I can't get much out of the ladle anymore. All you're doing is getting the temperature of the eggs raised slowly. If you would pour it in right away, there's a good chance you'd be making scrambled eggs instead of pastry cream. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Then once I feel like I've gotten 2/3 of the way in, then I can just slowly start to pour. Now again, just do a stream. So I'm mixing, pouring. And then once it's in, it has to go back on the stove. So you have 2 choices. You can either go back in your pot that it came from, or you can grab a clean one. You just want to make sure that you're not going to have any burning on the bottom. So we're going to pour the mixture back in. And now it's going to go on the stove. It's like medium heat. Okay, so we're going to go on kind of a medium flame. And let me just get rid of this. I'm going to slide this guy over. Now at this point, you're going to stir with 2 things. You're going to use the whisk, and you're also going to use the rubber spatula. Okay? You're going to get this isn't necessarily going to come to a boil. Okay? What it's going to do is as soon as it starts to get hot, you're going to notice the bubbles are going to start to disappear. And as soon as they disappear, it's going to start to thicken. And what we want to do is we just want to get it thick enough so that it leaves a trail. So that when I go like this with the whisk, or if I switch to the rubber spatula, it does the same thing. Now this whisk is good for doing this with because it has that little circle at the bottom that helps get to the edges and contours of the pan. But at some point I am going to switch to the rubber spatula to make sure that I'm getting all the way to the bottom. Okay, because we don't want this to get clumpy. If you remember in class when we made the lemon curd, it was similar, but because this is all the cream and all the richness, this runs a greater risk of clumping, and what I don't want it to do is burn on the bottom of the pan. So you're going to notice at first it doesn't look like a whole lot, but you'll notice that the bubbles will start to go away. Then the first signs of thickening, you'll start to notice a residue on the bottom. Now, it's probably hard to see, but when I'm whisking it, I can tell that it is starting to thicken. Okay, I notice, it just feels like more of a thicker mass when I go back and forth. I don't have as much of the sloshiness. And it says, it takes a little bit of patience because you don't want to have the heat too high. Alright. I'm going to switch to the rubber spatula now. Okay, you see that? That's what I was looking for. So now that I switched to the rubber spatula, I'm starting to see some residue on the bottom. And now it's telling me that it's starting to thicken now, because we're starting to get stuff cooking on the bottom. So at this point I really want to keep it moving now with the spatula. And I may have to go back to the whisk it a little bit, but right now I want to make sure that I have nothing burning on the bottom. And it happens quick. Okay, so we'll see this. Right now it looks like you're just kind of watching the paint dry, but it's going to happen pretty quick. I'm actually going to turn my heat down just a little bit. Let me check it because it's hard to see on these things. There we go. So now it's starting to come together. I'm going to switch to the whisk because I want to bring, there we go. Now I'm feeling pretty good. I want to bring everything together. I lifted it off the heat a little bit because these small burners are trickier. They're not like it is working at your house. So what I'm trying to do now is just get it nice and smooth. It starts to get, sometimes it gets a little lumpy at first, but now we got it looking pretty good. There we go. And then what you want to do is cook it until it leaves a trail. So I'm going to just set it down here so I can turn my heat down. It's hard to do it all at the same time with these little burners. There we go. And now we're just going to keep stirring. Starting to smooth out. And now we have the trail. So now what I want to do is keep going. Now that it thickened, and like I said, it leaves that trail, now you're able to really stir it and get it smooth. If you had any lumps in it. This is a difficult one for me to make and talk through. Usually it's just you got to focus on this. Now, because this is French, we're going to add the butter. Okay, so now that I put a little bit of elbow grease in it, I'm starting to get out of breath. Now it's looking nice and smooth. So I'm going to take the butter, it's off the heat, and the butter is just going to go in. And we're going to stir that up. And the butter is going to make it nice and velvety. Oh, this is looking good. Now, the last thing, butter is almost there. The last thing we want to do is add the vanilla. So, as we learned in class, vanilla extract, it has an alcohol base. So if you put it in early, when it would start to boil, the flavor would kind of boil out. But by putting it in now, the flavor stays. So any kind of extract that you're going to use, you're going to put it in that way. So you can see how the custard got nice and smooth on me. I don't really have the lumps anymore. They all mixed in. And it's still like this. Okay, if you would have brought it to a boil, it would be to the point where it could hold my spatula. Hold my whisk. We don't want that. We want it to still have like some liquid to it. So, the last step is we got to prepare it to go in the fridge. And because pastry cream is so rich and has the egg and all that in it, you definitely want to cool it very quickly because it can harbor bacteria very easy. So what we're going to do is prepare an ice bath. So I have some ice. I'm going to put some water in there. And then you want it to cool quickly. So we're going to use a little third hotel pan here. And we're going to take our spatula and we're going to bring it out into the pan. Just like that. Okay. And then we're going to spread it out so it cools very quickly. If you left it in a big clump, it's going to cool very slowly. So this is nice and flat. Okay, just like that. Looks very nice. Nice texture to it. Then we're going to put it in the ice bath. And that'll help it so it cools quickly. And then the last thing you're going to do is we're going to put the saran wrap on. And if you remember, like you did with Chef 1, when you work with the bechamel sauce, you want to put the saran wrap on so it touches, because you don't want it to form a skin. So we're going to put this down. And again, pastry cream is not easy to bake. It does take some time. And like I said, it's a hard one for me to do on the video because you really got to focus on it. Like you saw, it happens very quick, 0 to 60. Now, once you have that on like that, then you know that it's prepared for the fridge and it won't develop that skin. It looks really nice. And then I just like to put one more over top. Now, what we're going to do with this is we're going to make little fruit tarts. So next time you're with me, I will show you how to take this and how to make a chantilly, and then we'll blend the two of those together to make a mousseline so it's nice and fluffy, and then we'll be able to make a fruit tart. So let me just get the saran wrap, give me a hard time there. And that's it, that's ready to go, that's chilled in an ice bath. And thanks for baking with me today, and I'll see you next time right here in Mr. Polk's Kitchen.